Good morning, welcome to the garden. Just having a little coffee out here, and I just saw a hummingbird for the first time in the garden. The Vermilion Aircuphia, that red flower down there, is doing its job. We have hummingbirds. I knew if you want to bring hummingbirds into your garden, that's the thing to do it. They are just such incredible hummingbird attractors. Oh my goodness. Look at how healthy the Cuphia is right now. I mean, it's just, they're covered in blooms, which is just everything. Oh my goodness, it's looking so good. And we have hummingbirds, so I couldn't be happier. We're starting off the week with a very gray day, although this week is supposed to get really hot. We're actually supposed to get a heat advisory for a few days in a row. So that's gonna be kind of an interesting challenge for the garden. I do have a few seedlings. I wanted to show you that the blue spice basil, another thing I'm like so excited about, the blue spice basil is actually coming up beautifully over here next to the blue fortune Ixtachy. So that's really exciting to see, and hopefully it's going to grow really fast. Now I'm thinking I might need to plant some more blue spice basil, maybe in a few other places. I wasn't expecting it to like come up so fast and get going, but it did. So look at that. Tons and tons of little basil seedlings. They were the tiniest basil seeds, and now they're just coming up everywhere. And even one of the zinnias is popping up. Probably should push that other seed. You can see there's a seed on top of the soil there. Let me put my coffee down. Should probably keep that a little bit covered just so it gets enough moisture to germinate. But yeah, this is thrilling. Now the nasturtiums take a little while longer. I could have nicked the seeds on these. I did not, but I'm just gonna keep, they'll germinate. It just takes slightly longer, but that is a really exciting sign there with the blue spice basil. And of course now I'm like, I need more. It's never enough. Once I see something doing well, I'm like, it's more. I'm hoping this week might bring a flower on the sunflower here. Maybe we're almost to sunflower season. We're getting close. They are getting really tall. You can see how tall, like look how tall that amaranth is. Sorry, it's trash morning pickup. You could probably hear that, but yeah, this is like, I love this. This amaranth is looking great. It's just covered in blooms. And this is the Cuphia that I saw this hummingbird on this morning. So that was really exciting. Yeah, I feel like the whole garden right now, I should pick up those pots, but it's looking nice. Okay, here's a little look. So for reference, first week of June, we've got some noisy birds out here, and this is where the garden's at. Lots and lots of color, and I think this container, it's kind of exploding, and I'm pretty sure it's just gonna absolutely take off. Like in the next week or so, this is gonna get crazy. I can already see there's sort of maybe a bud forming over here on the zinnia. The cucumbers are about to spill out. Of course, the strawberries are looking great, even the Swiss chard. Eggplant's gonna start doing its eggplant thing. Yeah, like we are just right on the edge of some real big change in this container. So that's pretty exciting. And of course, let's go over and just do a beginning of the week update on the pumpkin, and then we'll check in at the end of the week and see how much it's grown. But look how big that is. That's gonna become such a huge plant. Oh, and let's look at this container too. Just give you a little beginning of the week update on everything. Got a tomato to pick, so that's exciting. Hello there, it is evening out here in the garden. Oh my goodness, I have been seeing the hummingbird all day long today. I am so happy. It has been all over all of the Cuphia, and it's just been, every time I come out here, it's out on the flowers, which is so exciting, because obviously that was like, yeah, that's just great to see. So, oh, and there's a bumblebee, but the pollinator planting is working. I would say the air conditioner just turned on, so I had to go in and run in and turn that back off. Oh my gosh, we've also got a beautiful evening, so you'll probably hear the neighborhood kids are running around and yelling. If you hear that, that's what it is. Everyone's out enjoying the weather. I had to show you the corn and the sunflowers in this bed. They are growing so quickly. Look at these. It's really exciting to see them take off. And I feel like, you know, there are a ton of flowers on this squash. So this will be interesting to see. This is the Sunburst Patty Pan squash, which is one of my favorite squash. I still feel like it's smaller than it should be, but it's loaded with blooms. But anyways, today I noticed that the corn in here is really taking off. So that was really exciting, but nothing on the seeds that I planted over there. This evening, I don't have too many garden tours, but one thing I am gonna do is come in here and cut back. Oh, look, do you see the bee? This is why I planted this. It is just the most basic blue salvia, but the bees love it. It's a classic. So what I'm going to do today is come in here and just, sorry about the wind. I'm going to come in and deadhead back the flower stalks that are done flowering, and hopefully that will encourage the plant to continue to send out new shoots and new flowers, and then hopefully we'll have a continuous display. I know sometimes people like to let these flower and then they just shear the whole plant back, but since I have a small garden, I have plenty of time. I can come out and individually take these the old stalks down. I can individually take these out. I'll just trim these out, and then hopefully it'll encourage the plant to produce new flower stalks, which you can see there's some new shoots. So if I cut above that, we should continue to have blooms on this, and hopefully we won't have a point in the season when this totally lulls. I would of course love to keep it blooming because we've got, you know, all those bees and butterflies and hummingbirds out here, and I want to keep them interested. So I'm just gonna go grab my garden shears. Oh, I'm so happy to see this honeybee. This makes me so happy. I think that's a honeybee. Look at it. Do you love it? Okay, I'm just gonna come out and deadhead while my little bee friend has a snack. I'm gonna see if there's anything else. I probably need to come in. Most evenings I come out here and do some deadheading, especially on the petunias, because of course the more you deadhead petunias, the more blooms you get. This is another good one for pollinators. Oopsie. He wants these. Let me deadhead so that you can have more flowers too. It benefits all of us. All right, let's go get the shears. Of these little branches got damaged, but they're like hanging on and blooming, so leave it. Don't worry about shaping this plant too much. We're gonna have to do a whole nother round coming in here and deadheading in probably just a few days, but that's okay. I think that looks good for now. I always just end up fluffing this. Well, that was the start of it. It's probably, you know, you can see they're almost done, but I'm gonna leave every last flower because if that bee wants every last little flower, it can have it. It can have every last bloom. It is nice. So this is like the old school salvia, right? This is the old, like old school salvia. It's been around forever. I remember my mom having this like exact same one in her garden when we were growing up. But over here, we've got the, what is this? Is this the Mystic Spires? Where did I hide the plant tags? Blue Spires? I forget what this one is. But anyways, this is one of those new and improved. I mean, look at the size of this bloom stalk. Oh my gosh, and it's loaded with new blooms. It's gonna get huge. This is gonna be a tree. But this salvia will keep blooming all season long, which is, you know, it's nice. I think it's also perennial, but you definitely don't have to worry. Maybe it's an annual. I didn't even look. I can't believe I thought I had the plant tags. I've been trying this year to keep all the plant tags around, but anyways, it's nice to not have to worry about like having to deadhead like that. You know, of course, if you have a bigger garden, you just come in and shear it all back, but still, it's nice to just have consistent blooms and never have to worry. I should probably come in and deadhead this pincushion flower too. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. The sunflowers are getting close. And actually, remember I planted a zinnia in here? The zinnia seeds are coming up and they put on their first true leaves. So they may actually push through. It'll be interesting to see. That sunflower might be too much because it is pretty intense. That sunflower is getting really big, pretty wide and pretty bushy. But zinnias are pretty tenacious and they tend to be one that kind of will weave their way through. We'll see how spindly they are given that they're not getting, you know, full sun and they are shaded by that plant and everything. But yeah, zinnias tend to be one that will kind of like, they'll kind of weave their way through and usually try to survive if possible. So I will be curious, but I'm pleasantly surprised to see that it's, you know, the seedlings came up, they're putting on their second set of leaves or first true leaves. They're doing it. That's pretty good news. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that. Okay, I think I'm also gonna deadhead some of this Linaria here. It's looking a little like it could use a little deadheading, and then I think that's gonna be the end of my garden tours for this evening. This one is harder to deadhead because it's kind of like a little hard to see in amongst all these grassy leaves what is, you know, what you're doing. I've just been trying to do the best I can. And this is a new flower to me too, so I'm still kind of getting to know what I need to do in order to keep it blooming. Even know how to try to like get down to the like down to the base of these stalks. I don't even think I can, although I'm not sure it matters given how like grassy textured this is. We'll just do the best we can. I think that might be about good enough. I think I'm gonna end up missing some, but I'm not gonna worry about it. It looks a little better, and basically, I just want to make sure the plant knows that it has to keep flowering. I don't want it to think it's off the hook. I'm going to rotate it a little bit too. Just try to keep the shape. It's kind of growing sideways. I kind of want it to keep the shape. There we go. Good morning. Another coffee, checking on the garden here. This morning I am going to harvest a little bit of this Swiss chard for my husband's sandwiches for lunch. This bed is getting really full, which I love. That's great. But I'm noticing a little bit of like, man, I don't know if this is kind of like a fungus or something over here on the Swiss chard. But I think it would be good for me to just come in and trim out these leaves that are kind of got something going on. And then I'm also just going to harvest the biggest leaves. So cut and come again method, where you take out the biggest leaves and let the smaller leaves keep growing. And that way the plant just, you know, keeps growing, and we'll have Swiss chard all year. And then I'm also going to kind of do some like sort of training. This is one of these things with this high density beds is, you know, of course, I always talk about like I come in and I'm going to be pruning these beds, but I'm also just going to kind of like help direct the plants too. You know, they move back into these spaces. It's not like doing this is really going to, you know, totally change the growth pattern of the plant, but I think it kind of helps to just like give space and start just helping the plants, you know, make sure we're sort of going in the right direction. I want this tomato plant to be spilling completely over the side here, which it's starting to do. Look how perfect that is. It's the Roma tomato. It's looking beautiful. And so I'm just kind of helping it, you know, helping it to spill over and just keeping giving the eggplant some space. We're also gonna keep an eye on this basil, which is really encroaching on my zinnias and my cosmos. And you can see the basil's wanting to flower. So I'm gonna come in and pop off some of these big stems that want to flower. See if I can do this without garden shears. And also any of the ones that are getting in the way of my flowers. I can always use basil and figure out something to do with this basil. I should have brought a garden tray. I guess I'll just set it in my daughter's water table. But there's like a little zinnia here that's kind of fallen over. So we'll just get that zinnia in a better position. We'll trim out some of this basil. I'm gonna end up with lots of basil in this bed, so I'm not, you know, super worried. And that just gives a little bit more room. Okay, you know, it's nothing major, but it's the little things like that, just to make sure that everything's getting what it needs. Yeah, and we're just gonna let the basil and the tomato kind of fight it out, but I could come in and take out like, let's see, I should have get my garden shears. I could take out that tomato leaf if I wanted to give the basil a little bit more room. But hopefully we can kind of train the basil this way so it kind of starts coming out the side and doesn't get too much in the way of things. But I think this is totally fine, and there's really no like damage. The basil is going to grow and grow and grow, and basically I just want to make sure that I get any of these little flower heads that are starting off so that it doesn't get bitter, because this is an old style tomato basil. That's not a new, like one of those nasal basils or something that doesn't mind having or that doesn't mind flowering and won't change the flavor. This is one of those old style basils, so the flavor will change. But I'm just gonna make sure like the pepper is okay, which I think it is. Take out one leaf. We'll take out a couple leaves from the tomato plants. You know, if you're a garden micromanager like me, the nice thing about having heavily planted containers is that you kind of like, you always have something to fuss with. And I like that. I like to fuss around with, you know, I don't know, directing where the plants go. I missed. All right. take out any of the leaves that have whatever this pest is. I guess maybe it's it looks a little on the fungusy kind of side. Let's remove that. You don't need any of that in this garden. Especially since it is so densely planted. All right, I think I got that thinned out a little bit, and you can barely even tell. It's like you can sort of see it's slightly less full, but you can barely even tell what I took out. And this is gonna get big in no time. I am like, whatever this little fungusy something's going on here, one of the things I'm gonna do, I think, to counteract this is I have been doing a little bit of overhead watering in this bed, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and stop doing that. So I definitely don't think that that's helpful for any kind of, well, it definitely isn't helpful for fungus issues. It's not helpful for the tomato. So I had been kind of spraying down some of these containers and some of the pots kind of with some overhead water, which I don't usually do, but I just felt like it was so hot and dry out here that maybe, I don't know, it's like maybe they need some water on their leaves. But I definitely won't be doing that with the Swiss chard. And usually, you know, of course, I know overhead watering is not usually best, but I don't know, I just was like, this is part of this, you know, every time you're in a new garden space, you know, you're trying to figure out what works, what's best. And I just felt, compared to my Virginia, like heat and humidity, it feels so dry here, and I feel like I'm like the plants, their little leaves need water. So I don't know, that was kind of silly of me, and I feel like now I've ended up with the Swiss chard doing what it did and having those issues. So see if we can fix it. The nice thing about having a densely planted container like that is that, you know, worst thing, the Swiss chard just kind of gets sick and I have to pull it out. I've got all those cucumbers, the strawberries, that container will fill in. I did notice as I was looking back over here, look, we've got the first peppers coming on the snack box orange. So we gotta wait till they turn orange. But the first peppers are starting to bloom, or not bloom, starting to grow in there. So that is actually really cool. And then over here, our cherry tomatoes are starting. These are the sun golds. They're almost ripe. So we're getting well into tomato season. I've got to get my daughter out here today to harvest that Roma tomato over there. Super, super exciting. We're getting into the season of harvest, which is awesome. Okay, the final thing I want to show you today is that this cute little dahlia that I picked up, the Sunstars Scarlet and Yellow, is starting to bloom. And how cute is that, with the little light yellow petals inside the red and the beautiful yellow center. It's so adorable. I love it. So I've got to find a container for this, but it started to open, so I wanted to make sure that I showed you how that's looking. So pretty. So that is where we are at right now today. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous morning. The heat doesn't start till I think tomorrow our heat wave starts. So today we get to enjoy one last day where the garden's looking fresh and beautiful, and then I'll probably be out here watering tomorrow morning before we get that really intense heat. We'll see. But maybe we'll also get a lot of growth and a lot more things like ripening and setting fruit, given that it's that real summer heat, which I know, you know, the squashes and those kind of plants really love that. The pumpkin, I swear by the day, this warty thing pumpkin is my pride and joy, and by the day it is getting bigger. I love this container. I'm so happy. The pumpkin, there's the actually the ground cherries are really growing well within the corn. Kind of the corn is providing exactly that structure that I want. Look how big the ground cherries are getting. They're really growing up, and the corn is just looking beautiful. This is the broom corn, and it's looking so fresh and so healthy and gorgeous with those ground cherries in there. And then of course, yeah, the warty thing pumpkin just getting large. Not going to be able to contain it for too much longer. Good morning, welcome to the garden. You can feel it already that is gonna be such a hot day. I don't know, it's not even that warm out yet, but like you can just feel the heat in the air, that not cloud in the sky. So I think I am gonna give the garden just a quick water to try to make sure that nothing dries out. I've noticed some of my bigger containers with like the bigger plants are starting to dry out a little bit when we get the hot days. Like I'll see this pollinator container here flagging a little bit, which makes sense because I mean, look how huge all of these plants are. The sunflowers, I swear they're even taller than they were yesterday. They're absolutely massive, but I'm sure they are really starting to take up most of the root system here in this container. And so I'm just gonna give them some water so that when we get to these like 90-degree temperatures, I don't come out in the middle of the day and everything's completely wilted. But I think this is gonna be where I end the video for the week. This coming weekend, we have a birthday party for my daughter. So I've got lots of decorating to do and goodie bags to make and all of the things. I did want to give you a little update because I don't think I highlighted it this week, but this has been the week that my corn and bean little window box has really taken off. All of a sudden this week, it looks like a real container. And I just gave everything a really good dose of fertilizer last night. I do feel like the beans in this container, I'll show you in a second, are looking just slightly like the green is not the fullest green that it could be. So I gave it a good healthy dose of some of the organic fertilizer last night to try to help make sure that it doesn't, that it has everything that it needs. But it's looking so good. Look at this. Well, for one, corn is so adorable in the morning because it has all of the little droplets of water on it. But look how fun this container is. So we got really great germination. Everything just about came up. A couple beans didn't really. But it's like, I think it's just so cute. So it'll be interesting to see how tall this corn is gonna get, given that it's packed in here really tightly. But this is the Bloody Butcher corn, so it should be like a full-size corn, although with the density, it's not gonna get to that height. But yeah, look at the little beans. They're looking good. I think they already the color looks a little bit better. They just were slightly, like the green was just looking a little pale, kind of a little too yellowy, but I think even overnight with that fertilizer, I think it looks better. It already looks happier, which is really nice. So yeah, I'm gonna make sure I get that container a lot of water too, because it's not a huge soil reservoir in that container by any means. I've also been seeing the hummingbird out here on the kufia so much. Now I wanted to show you, this is interesting. So this container, we've got this beautiful kufia, and then the Sunfinity sunflower, both getting huge and large. And this is so interesting because you can see the difference in how plants perform given the container size. So you can see how gorgeous and green and healthy these leaves look. And you can see how massive, absolutely massive the sunflower is. Here are the same two plants, but in a different size soil reservoir. You can see the Sunfinity sunflower is like half the size. Not even. I mean, it's so much smaller. And you can also see that the kufia is doing two things. So there is like a little bit of, I think this is probably stress, honestly, this coloration on the leaf. So the leaves are a little bit like kind of goldy, a little bit of stress, but it's also like probably got double the flowers on it. So it's flowering way more intensely in this smaller soil reservoir. It's a bit smaller sized and the leaves look a little stressed, but way more flowers. So very interesting. And then the contrast in the size of the sunflower is just wild. Although it's still blooming. I mean, it looks pretty healthy. One thing I am gonna do for this container is like double how much water I'm giving it. I had been kind of holding off a little bit on water because the calibrachoas don't really like water. It's not that they don't like water, but they like to dry out in between waterings. And I don't know, I just ended up kind of like not giving this as much water, but I'm gonna go ahead. I gave it a big dose of fertilizer, and then I am going to give it a ton more water, and we'll see if I can just get it a little bit happier, like 2 a day water. I'm gonna water this and all my little seedlings and everything twice a day, and especially in this heat, and see if we can't get it to perk up just a little bit, and just see if we can't get the leaves looking a little bit happier on this Kufia, and then maybe a little bit more growth on the sunflower. Like, look, it's so short, it's so small compared to the other one. It's very interesting, very, very interesting to see, but still looks beautiful. And I actually really love this container. And it is interesting to see that Kufia is just so, I mean, the amount of blooms on this one versus the other, I don't know, maybe the stress is actually kind of doing some good things for it. But I started giving it more water last night, and I'll keep you updated over the next like week or two on our weekly vlogs. We'll see if we can, like, if that water increase does anything for the sunflower, and certainly if it changes kind of like the leaf color on the Kufia. It'll be really interesting to watch the impact of that. I'm just going to be really intentional. I still have some things that I'm starting from seed, so I still am coming out here now in the mornings and watering, just like doing like a little bit of a morning water on those seedling containers, just to make sure that nothing dries out, because until everything germinates, I want to make sure that I'm not letting anything dry out. Okay. Before I go, the last thing I did want to show you too is this little pot right here. So this is the Tromboncino pot, which actually the Tromboncino squash is finally starting to grow. Like, it's got a curly cube coming off, a tendril. It's starting to actually put on some leaves. It's looking a little healthier. The color's looking better. I have been fertilizing and watering this quite regularly. And I ended up sticking in some of those plants that I got that I ordered online. And the marigold is making like a total comeback. It was looking very sad, but I just popped it in here, like in the side of the container. Figured we'll see what happens. And look, it's like starting to bloom. It's putting on some healthy growth. It's looking good. And then I put in this little container cucumber, which, like, to use the southern saying, like, bless its little heart, look, it's putting on a cucumber. This is such a sad little plant, but it's trying so hard. And I'm thrilled. I'm really excited. I'm like, you try that. So we'll see. I think this container is gonna I think it's gonna recover. I think this was kind of like my little container of I don't know, lost, sad looking little plants, but I think it's gonna recover, and I'm curious. But you gotta love a cucumber that works that hard. How cute is that? I don't know when I should like pick it or what I should do with it really, but cute. Gonna make sure it gets lots of fertilizer. And then I ended up popping in this banana pepper that is still looking really sad. I just popped it in a couple days ago, but we'll see if that one can't make a recovery too, and if this can't be like our little recovery pot. But I'm really excited to see that the Tromboncino is actually putting on some growth, because I really wanted this squash to do well this year, and I was really like kind of sad that it wasn't going to do anything. But now, I don't know, maybe it just needed this heat to really take off. It's interesting, but I'm happy to see that. And then if you remember, when I planted the sunflowers along this fence line, I threw in a Tromboncino squash seed along the fence line too, just to see if maybe we could grow it like kind of in ground. And that seed has germinated and is coming up now too. So maybe we'll have a Tromboncino here along the fence, which would be Look at that little squash. And we're gonna have this nice heat this week. And so I'm encouraged that maybe we'll actually get something growing along here, which would be really neat. And actually, we've got some corn. The corn has come up. A lot of the sunflowers have come up, so it's not going to be like super densely planted along this little in-ground spot, but some things are actually coming up, and I need to come out here and spread a little bit more slug bait just to make sure, because there is something that's been munching on some of these seedlings. That is the week in the garden. All the big updates. Okay, one last look at look at this amaranth. Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so beautiful. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna enjoy the garden for a little bit, put down some slug bait, and yeah, try to make sure we don't dry out over the heat wave the next couple days. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. Oh, and before I go, I promised to show you. Look how much the pumpkin has grown in just a few days. Oh my goodness. I love it. It's so huge.